Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Clubhouse Picks brought to you by Godzilla Wins. I'm your host, Jack Fredericks, editor of Godzilla Wins, where you can get all of your sports picks and predictions on everything from the NBA to the UFC. Clubhouse Picks is your go-to podcast for PGA predictions, tournament preview, and salty picks for the veteran golf fan. It is a lovely Tuesday evening in Mississippi on April 18th, and we're here to give our picks and predictions for the RBC Heritage. The Zurich Classic. Forgot to update that. Whoops. The Zurich Classic in New Orleans. I'm your co-host. I'm here with my co-host, Nate Perry, the greatest handicapping caddy west of the Rockies, and special guest this week, Nate Brown with WeKnowFantasy.com. You can find Nate on Twitter at WKFNate. Don't miss Nate's weekly golf fantasy podcast, Out of the Rough, every Wednesday. Welcome, Nate and Nathaniel.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Nate. So I mentioned the RBC Heritage, which must be fresh in my mind. We'll move past that this week. Usually, Nate, we do like a little bit of a recap, but because we have so much to talk about this week with the way that this tournament is set up and the course, we'll move past that and we'll just move straight into the Zurich Classic in New Orleans. This is the only team event on the PGA Tour, and the scoring, as we all know, is a little bit idiosyncratic, even for the PGA, I think. So, Nathaniel, Nate Perry, if you will, for us, very quickly, or you could take your time, actually, we got time. If you could tell us about the Zurich Classic, maybe a little bit of the course preview at TPC Louisiana, but then also kind of how the scoring is going to work for this team event.
Okay, yeah. So we'll start with just TPC Louisiana. There's not much to this course. I mean, there's a few water hazards. There's a lot of bunkers, and the greens are pretty small. But overall, the players don't have a huge sort of challenge ahead of them this week. Typically the scores are 25 under par or better for the winner. So, guys can go low here, particularly in the best ball format. 7,400 yards, par 72. Like I said, nothing stands out as just sort of like outstanding about this course. And guys usually do score on it. The format is what really makes it weird. So we start off on Thursday with 4-ball, which is a best ball format. Everyone plays their own ball. And then whoever has the best score on a hole wins best recorded. So, player A and player B are playing, player A birdies, player B pars, take player A's birdie and move on as the team score. And then on Friday, we do foursomes, which is alternate shot, commonly called. Foursomes is basically players take turns. One player tees off on odd numbered holes, one player tees off on even numbered holes, and then they just alternate shots until the hole is completed. So we'll have Thursday a 4-ball, Friday of foursomes, and the cut will be top 33 teams in ties advancing, and then we'll go 4-ball and then foursomes on Saturday and Sunday respectively. So a little bit of a tricky format, definitely unique, but it's kind of exciting to watch a little bit of this team event. I think that some of the teams are kind of fun. Okay, so are we talking about stats that we sort of looked at? Nate, did you want to take a crack at that first?
Yeah, sure. Like you said, it's a very scoreable course. Like you said, possibly scores flirting with, minus 30 last year. I think it was minus 29 with Schauffele and Cantley there. Of course, of this nature, approach shots, especially being a Pete Dye design, force layups off the tee, things of that nature. So strokes gain approach is something I looked at closely this week. Of course, you have the strokes putting Bermuda specifically. I know these greens are Bermuda with a POA overseeding, so that's important. You mentioned the sand bunkers and everything of that nature, so there'll be a lot of possible sand shots this week. Just some stuff like that. Driving accuracy off the tee. It's not, like you said, you're not going to win and lose this event off the tee, but it is important to find those fairways, or not only find the fairways, but find the best positional advantage you need off the tee, especially being a Pete Dye design.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of like what I factored into. I found myself being drawn to like weird stats, like, like who's like good on like long approaches, because TPC Louisiana sort of forces players into longer approaches than maybe they would on sort of a bomb and gouge course. So I found myself being drawn to like stats like approach over 200 yards, strokes gained, stuff like
Mhm.
that as well. Just to sort of try and see if there was anything there, particularly like when I'm scrounging around for long shots.
Yeah, you got to find those guys that are kind of specific in one category, those
Right.
long shots.
Yeah. Jack, are you
One
back?
of the things,
Okay.
I think so, but just holler at me if I'm having some serious internet issues, but it just keeps dropping out for some reason. So whatever. But yeah, one of the things that I looked at, and approach is definitely one of those things, but greens and regulation as well. Just being able to hit those greens and give yourself a chance to be able to two putt on the green, something like that. I kind of looked at that. Although I say that, but almost everyone I chose greens and regulation is like horrible. So even though I looked at it, it wasn't something that I could really, I had to kind of shoehorn it in there in some ways. But it is kind of a difficult course or just a difficult format to handicap because we're so used to saying, okay, well, here's, this is a bomb and gouge course. And so we'll look at strokes gained off the tee and we're not then interested in putting. And, this guy does well in these comp courses. It is a Pete Dye course, which I know you guys mentioned. So that's important to kind of keep in mind. As far as some guys who are just better on Pete Dye courses than other guys, but really it's a difficult format. So a lot of this stuff, I think I would imagine for all of us, we probably have a different way of thinking about this stuff. So what I want us to do then, especially because there's three of us, we'll go around. Our format stays the same. We'll do what's in your bag. We'll talk about the driver, our irons, wedge, putter, and hybrid. We'll go pretty quickly through that, get through all of our stuff. But before we do that, I need to be able to thank our sponsor, Birch Gold. So one of our important sponsors here makes this show possible is Birch Gold. Inflation has consequences. As the Fed raises interest rates to combat out of control government spending, long-term bonds have diminished in value, crippling banks. Depositors are holding their breath and investors are bailing on bank stocks. Diversification has never been more important. The recent surge in gold prices is directly tied to the extreme market volatility right now. This is why gold has historically been a great hedge against the stock market and against inflation. Now would be a great time to diversify into gold with the Birch Gold Group. Birch Gold makes it easy to convert an IRA to a 401k into an IRA in precious metals. Here's what you need to do. Text Godzilla to 9898. That's Godzilla to 98989 to get a free info kit on gold. They'll help you convert your existing IRA or 401k that's tied into a volatile market into an IRA in precious physical metals, gold and silver. That's text Godzilla to 989898 to claim your free info kit on gold today. Again, Godzilla 989898. We thank Birch Gold for helping us bring this podcast to life. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll talk about our driver. That's our kind of heavy hitters. Any of the teams who are really like minus 20 to 1 short prices for some of these guys. I'll start with Nate, our guest, since he's our guest. As far as team goes and some of these short prices, what team are you kind of looking at?
I'm going to go with the Kims squared here, Siwoo and Tom. I know there's a ton of love out there for, of course, Cantlay and Schauffele being the defending champions, and their odds are way too short to even consider, in my opinion. So I'm going with the Kims here. They both have victories on the season. Siwoo won the semi-open in January, and Tom hasn't won. It was this season, but it was the Shriners Children's Open back in November, I believe. Tom very quietly had a T16 at the Masters in his debut. I don't think we can overlook that. Siwoo also did well at the Masters, a top 30 there. I know they both missed the cut a week ago, which is a little concerning, but it's real hard to go from the Masters straight into a elevated event, as this new format has with the scheduling. And I won't get into that. I don't like the way they structured some of these tournaments, but either way, I like this combo. They're both good approach players. The concern here is the putting. They're both rather poor putters, but I think the rest of their game will elevate them. I know you mentioned the likes of green regulation. Tom currently is 9th on 4 in that. Siwoo is up there, 55th. They're just very well-rounded players outside of the putting, of course, but it just takes one event to get a hot stick going, and maybe playing with a partner will really do that for them. So I like these guys, and they're at 15-1.
Yeah, that's right. And I mentioned this to Nate earlier when we were kind of texting about this event, is that one of the things about the Kims is they're going to have fun out there. And in a team event like this, the chemistry is important. Like being with someone who you like, having fun in an event like this can really elevate your game and you can start shooting well. So those were guys I looked at too. Nate, who's your driver?
I mean, I guess I hate to do it, but it's probably worth us talking about anyways. Is I think that if you're going to play a shorter odds, it has to be Xander and Cantlay. I mean, they're both playing great. They're number 3 and 4 in the world. What's not to like? They broke the tournament scoring record last year, and they shot even par on Sunday. So that's pretty stupid. So from that perspective, they both just do everything well. Like they're elite for a reason. And I don't like this field is funky because you have a bunch of kind of weird players in it, guys that would never be in a PGA Tour event. Like David Duval and John Daly have a team, Matt's playing with his brother, Matt Fitzpatrick. So you get all these weird guys. So, I mean, if you're looking at what's a pretty weak field, just top to bottom, I think you just have to take the 2 guys that are the top 5 in the world. If you want to lay short odds. I didn't personally, I just bet a million long shots that'll lose. But if you're really just dying to bet on somebody and just have one thing to watch, I think it's got to be them.
Yeah, for the purposes of this podcast, it's we have to pick someone with short odds. So it's why not pick the shortest odds? Nate, none of us are betting 3-1. I think they're 3-1, something like that, 4-1.
Yeah.
I mean, just for golf, that's ridiculous. I mean,
that's stupid.
I can't even stomach 11-1. Huh?
Tiger Wood numbers, prime Tiger.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Tiger Wood numbers from back in the day. So I mean, I don't know. It's a good thing to recommend if you just want a favorite, but the odds are so short that it's what do you, I mean, I'm not even, if that happens, I'm not even making the money back that I spread around on 6 or 7 other guys. So kind of struggling there. Okay. So for me, I went with my guy, Sam Burns and Billy Horschel, 14-1. This has nothing to do with Billy Horschel. I suppose
this is all about your love affair with Sam Burns.
Yeah, I got a couple of love affairs here, but we'll just talk about Sam Burns for a minute. 5th strokes gained in putting, 42nd off the tee, 37th total strokes gained, bad greens in regulation, 147th, but whatever. My big thing with Sam is he's just playing so well. I mean, tied for 15th at RBC, tied for 29th at the Masters, won the match play, 6th at Valspar, tied for 35th at the Players. So he's been playing really well. I can't exactly say the same thing for Billy Horschel, who we all know can play well. I mean, if he was playing well, these guys might be right up there with Cantlay and Schauffele, to be honest with you. But he's been, he got cut at the RBC, 52nd at the Masters. His numbers are okay. I think that this is 2 guys who are pretty good with their irons, good with the approach, aren't a disaster on the putting green. And 14-1, I can stomach a little better than 3-1. So I really kind of appreciate the Burns Horschel team there. Although I had the Kims and then I crossed it out and went with Burns and Horschel. So I was kind of back and forth. I mean, you could see my notepad. I was like, okay, Kims. And then I said, no, let me go with Horschel.
Yeah, seeing a lot of that Burns Horschel love on Twitter this week already.
I think they're trending, which means they won't even come close to winning. I mean, that's what that means.
Right.
If we're all locked into Burns and Horschel, it'll be tied for 35th. You won't even win a tee for 20.
And I think that all the love is just past performances, because nobody really has a good idea how to handicap this. And they're like, oh, well, they finished tied for 4th here in 21 and, runner up last year. They must be good at this format. I think that's just as far as people can go. There's I don't know, who else did well here and who's on the same team.
Yeah.
Chemistry.
Yeah. Chemistry, which is something to look at. But probably not the most important, especially in golf. I mean, they're not playing the Lakers here. So Okay, so we'll get to our irons in a minute. I've got an interesting one. Maybe y'all have the same one. But before we do that, we got to thank Rosie's Gaming Emporium. This is one of our great sponsors here. Today's show is brought to you by Rosie's Gaming Emporium. Rosie's has paid out over $475 million in jackpots so far this year. February winners include Alex. Alex won 140 big ones at Rosie's and Dumfries. Tabitha, 99K at Rosie's and Richmond's. Douglas, 93,000 at Rosie's and Dumfries again. Dumfries always hot. Robert, 146 in Vinton. Starting in March and in April, new members for play for free at Rosie's. Sign up for a free Rosie's reward card and instantly receive $25 to $1,000 in free play. That's a lot of scratch for you right there. Learn more about this promotion, Rosie's rewards and jackpots at rosiesgaming.com. That's rosiesgaming.com. Must be in Virginia to qualify. Gambling problem, call the Virginia hotline. Don't forget, horse racing starts July 13th at Colonial Downs in New Kent, Virginia. Okay, so let's move on to our irons here. These are guys who, just like maybe that 7-iron or that 8-iron or that 5-iron, reliable dudes who have won on tour before at some point, maybe, or they've come close. Guys who maybe are 20 to 40 to 1. Although in this event, I mean, I don't know. A lot of my guys are in the 20 to 40. I mean, the 20 to 40 to range. If you look at the past winners as far as the odds go, we've gone from like 55 to 1 a couple years ago to like 9 to 1. It just keeps trending down. The guys with the short odds are winning this tournament, figuring out team play. So we'll start with our guest, Nate. Who do you like in the iron section here?
All right. Well, I guess I missed the memo on previous winners on tour when it comes to the irons here. But
Oh yeah, no. You go with whoever you want. We
Going
just
Wyndham
make this
Clark.
stuff up as we go.
Going Wyndham Clark and Bo Hostler here, 24 to 1. Clark's actually made 13 straight cuts coming into this event. You know, not too long ago, 5th at the Valspar, 6th at the Punta Cana Championship at the Corliss. Hostler placed T31 just shy of a top 30 last week at the elevated event, the RPC Heritage. What I like about this team is they're both quality when it comes to par 5 scoring, which, you know, in these type of events where they're going to go low, you got to take advantage of those par 5s. They're both quality there, and they're actually both decent putters when it comes to Bermuda greens. So I like what they can do together. Clark is a guy I love to watch. You know, long off the tee, a decent approach players as well. And I don't know if there's much to say about Hostler there, but more so, like you said in your evaluation of your driver there, it's more about Clark here. But you know, Hostler's just there for the ride.
You're speaking my language. Nobody is a bigger Wyndham Clark fan than me. I
There we
didn't have
go.
him in this category, but my man Wyndham Clark is just on an absolute heater when it comes to making cuts. I mean, API tied for 34th, Players tied for 27th, Valspar 5th, Corrales, like you said, 6th, tied for 29th at RBC. If only he had qualified for the Masters, look out. And strokes gained is like incredible. Like total strokes gained, 28th, tee to green, 27th, greens and regulation, 58th, which is not so bad. You're right about Hostler. I mean, every week I write down results kind of like where these guys are, and it just says cut. So we won't even go into that.
Yeah,
But
didn't mention
yeah,
that.
maybe Wyndham runs off on him a little bit. So you're speaking my language. They were another one of my categories, but we talk about them a little bit now. As Nate knows, I'm a big Wyndham Clark guy, huge Wyndham Clark guy.
Perfect.
Nate does not share our enthusiasm.
And I'm a huge Bo Hostler guy. So, I mean, this is like
Well, there you
a
go.
perfect team for us. Yeah.
There
I'm
you go.
always betting on the Bo show, losing money.
Yeah, that's right. You are. Nate, who's your iron?
My iron is, so the iron's supposed to be like the steady, tried and true winner that you just like at 20 to 40 to 1. And I have none of those on my betting card. Those don't exist. What I do have is some guys that were tried and true winners in the DP World Tour for the last few years that are teaming together. I love Nick Højgaard and Thorbjorn Olesen, Team Denmark. I think it's, Højgaard just got his status, the special temporary status on the tour. So he's going to be playing a lot more now that he can get unlimited sponsors invites, and Olesen has been playing really well in sort of limited starts on the DP World Tour. He won in February, and he's only played one tournament since then, in late February at the Indian Open, where he finished tie sixth. They just look like a team that's like sneaky good for this sort of format. Obviously they know each other. They're, I'm sure like the professional golfing community in Denmark isn't like gigantic. And they must be friendly enough that like Thorbjorn's willing to like fly to the US to play this event. And they just sort of match up in a lot of the sort of categories that I looked at, when you like sort of measure them together. They're great strokes gained approach. They both make a ton of birdies. They both play par fives really well. And they're really good from 200 yards out. So just sort of pulling all of those in, for guys that sort of exist in the sort of top 10 of a lot of those categories in this field, it just looks like something that'll play to their strength, and you hope the chemistry is there, because they'll be familiar with each other. So that's sort of where I went. I don't know if they're reliable, but they've won before, just not on the PGA Tour.
Yeah. I've got another one that's not very reliable, sort of reliable, and hasn't won either. So I don't really know that either of us follow the rules that I made up 5 weeks ago or whatever. So mine is Justin Sue and Sahith Theegala, because I've been all over Theegala for a couple of weeks. I'm just going to keep riding that train until he wins at some point. Not as much to say about Justin Sue, although as far as his past performances go, the last couple of weeks, and that's really the only thing I've really been looking for, that couple of things, because I really couldn't get the approach stuff to work the way I wanted it to in the statistics or the greens and regulation. But even Justin Sue, I mean, okay, 73rd at the RBC, but he made the cut. Valspar tied for 45th. Players tied for 6th, which I had forgotten about. Tied for 5th at the Honda. So not like he hasn't been playing well. I'm pretty sure the Players is another Pete Dye, of course, although maybe I made that up.
It is.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Sahith, of course, 9th at the Masters, still riding that. Tied for 5th at RBC. He was my biggest play last week. I really thought he was going to put one together. I think he's having a lot of fun. I think his game is in the right place right now. He's young and he's playing with house money. Tied for 74th Players, 14th at API. So recent play for both these guys, pretty good. That reflects in their 20-1 odds. Those are short odds for two guys who really are not the same name brand as some of these other guys. And then Sahith's, I mean, his numbers are so good. 42nd in total strokes gain, 58th in tee to green, 28th strokes gain around the green, 54th in greens and regulation percentage. So there's another one that I think, like, I guess I would probably look at the top 5 odds for these, because I think these guys are going to be in the hunt all week. But I don't know, top 5. I mean, I'm not looking at it. It's probably
450
plus. Yeah, I was going to say plus 250. So I don't know. Not great odds, but I think that I don't think that this is something that they'll end up winning, but I do think that they'll be there all weekend long. And if they aren't, it's on the not on the strength of Sahith's playing. As far as Sahith goes, I'm going to continue to watch this guy and hammer him week after week. So, okay, those are our irons. We got a couple more to get through here. Moving right along. Before we do that, though, I got to thank one of our sponsors yet again. If I can pull it up. There it is. Just terrific live radio, I guess. There we go. There it is. I got to thank targettrading.co. With all the fear out there about the economy and personal finances, many people are turning to trading the markets to help support themselves and their families. Trading is risky. There's no doubt about that. Trading is not something that should be entered into lightly. That's all the more reason to get proper training and education. Target Trading Academy is considered the #1 futures trading education company in the industry. Over the last 15 years, the team has developed successful, respectable, repeatable trading strategies. And Target Trading Academy delivers these trading methods to you in a highly structured and effective learning environment. Want proof? You got to check out the student reviews. Guys like Chris, they love to say things like Target Trading Academy is a step to a better financial freedom and quality of life. Whatever the reason you want to learn and do futures trading, you won't be disappointed by choosing this academy. Don't listen to the reviews only. Go to targettrading.co. That's targettrading.co. Sign up for your free virtual campus tour. Or you can call 888-203-3731. That's 888-203-3731. We love Patrick and all he's done for us on Clubhouse Picks and our Saturday Picks radio show as well. Very excited to have him sponsor. We want to thank him. Go to targettrading.co to unlock your financial freedom. Okay, the wedge. This is a guy who, or two guys who don't always come through for you, but you like to bet them. Start with our guest again. Nate, who do you have in this category?
All right, we've talked about guys that you guys, I guess, are homers on or big fans of. So I'm going to go with a guy I'm a big fan of, and that's Tom Hoagie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Big Tom guy. He's pairing up with Harris English this week. Hoagie's an elite approach player. For the longest time, he was first on tour to his recently passed there, currently second in that. Not too long ago, Hoagie went T3 at the Players. English actually went T2 at the API. Some great finishes there, some huge events. What I like about this pairing is they kind of offset each other. English's quality on and around the greens, and of course Hoagie's an elite iron player or approach player, excuse me. So I really like that they each do something extremely well to offset the other person. And I just think it's a great group here, and of course big Hoagie guy, so I'm going with it.
Man, I might just kick Nate off the podcast and have our other Nate on the podcast, because
The
we
easy
are
transition.
on. Yeah, that's right. We're on the same page in so many ways. If there's a team that is more like, there's no team that's more tailored for me than Harris English and Tom Hoagie. I mean, a couple of
I
weeks
have
ago,
a text where he's got it circled, he's like, there's no way you don't bet this team.
I mean, I probably wrote, you can go to GodzillaOnes.com, look up the Harris English conundrum. I wrote like 2,000 words on my love for Harris English. And this was, I think, going into the Players, and then he got cut. But you're right. They both complement each other really well. Hoagie, his statistics are incredible. He hasn't put it together as far as like performance on the course, but there's no reason why at some point he won't, because total strokes gained 21st, tee to green 35th. You said approach second. He was first last week. He slipped a little bit. 46th in putting. I mean, he's pretty good. Greens in regulation percentage, he's 12th. The dude just, he's one of the most elite iron players. And then you can get English up and around the green. English is really good, even putting. The problem with these two is if they just start firing off the driver, just everywhere. So
Yes.
like that's your central concern, is that neither of these guys are super strong off the tee. But if one of them can just find it just for 2 or 3 days, just find a driver, get it in the fairway, and they're going to be hot. They're going to be so hot. This is, I think, the best bet of the week at 30-1. But I cannot express to you my love for English and Hoagie more than anything else. I mean, these two are they're so much fun to watch. I don't know. I mean, English hasn't really put it together either, but I'll never abandon Harris English. I just won't. I'll be watching him on the senior tour.
A quick story about Hoagie. I went to the national championship game here for the football at TCU versus Georgia in January, and I was actually in LT Daniel Tomlinson's suite watching it with him, and everyone from TCU trickled in, and I met all these huge guys, and I think I was most disappointed that Tom Hoagie never swung through. He was there at the as a TCU guy, came from Hawaii to watch it there in Arizona or LA, so I think I was most disappointed I didn't get to meet Hoagie that week. I just thought I was going to.
You got to be the only guy in the LaDainian Tomlinson suite being like,
when do you think Tom Hoagie's going to come by?
Yeah. I mean, I'd be the same way. I'd be like, hey, did you guys take any classes with Tom?
Heard he was a cool guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really could use some pointers on the iron play, the ball striking. Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Nate, you got a wedge for us, or is it Harris English and Tom Hoagie?
Who, mine?
Yeah.
No, of course not. It's just other losers that I like. So I do this all the time, where I like find some Euro guy that I've watched be a killer on the DP World Tour, Euro Tour, and I'm like, I'm in love with this person, and I love to bet them. And then they come to the US and I think this guy balls. And then they just sort of don't. And this is that group. It's Thomas Detry and Victor Perez for me are like
Yeah,
my wedges.
there.
Like they're they're just guys that I'm like, you should be better than you are.
Yep.
And Detry's actually had a pretty decent season. He's had he's had 3 top 10s this season. 37th in the FedEx Cup rankings. It's like pretty good. For he's an old rookie, he's 30-year-old rookie, but and Perez has been playing great on the DP World Tour. He's like 3rd in the race to Dubai. So those two together feels like a team that is just like too good to be true in a way. And it would be huge for either of them to win, obviously, or for them to win as a team, because it, sort of secures some status and stuff. But they just never seem, these sort of like guys that I love in Europe just never seem to translate like to PGA Tour play like very well. So I don't know if they'll win this week.
People have been on Detry all season.
Same.
Yeah.
Lost a lot of money for that, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, I mean, and he's like sexy to watch. He hits the ball a ton. He looks so much better than the results probably like indicate. But yeah, I mean, he's good.
Possibly the Belgium hoagie.
Yeah, that's right. Oh man, Detry and Hoagie, what a team that would be. I'd be all over that one too. Yeah, he's one that people, I mean, he shows up all the time and he just hasn't really seemed to put his game together on the course, but at some point he probably will. And it's good to, a lot of times we're just early on these guys. We watch so much more golf than I think, most people, unless people who are doing this type of stuff on a weekly basis do. And so I think we just end up early. Like, I mean, Nathaniel was all over Matt Fitzpatrick like a couple weeks ago. So,
at the Masters. No, he just wins the
that's
week
right.
after.
Yeah.
No
So
big deal. After I gave up on him.
sometimes, yeah. Well, and that's what happens, right? You go all in and then you give up on them. And yeah, we had a good RBC though. I don't know, Nate, how yours was. I think I remember seeing.
I mean, we were all
Somebody
over
had
the top of the leaderboard. We just didn't
over.
have the winner, but we were
Yeah.
never
I
going to.
had nothing.
You had
It's not a
nothing.
good one for me. Not a good one.
We got like smoked, I think. I don't know if it was the Masters or the week before that. There was one where we just absolutely were just a train wreck.
It was the Texas Open.
Masters served
was
me well,
Valero.
but that one was not
Yeah.
a good one either. That was a mess.
Yeah, we felt really good about the Valero, and we just got like, I mean, it was like embarrassing. So kind of how it goes sometimes. So okay, the putter, the bet and regret guys. This is a team where maybe you felt good about them like on Monday, but then on Thursday maybe you're not feeling so good, or you hit that ticket, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, that's probably not the greatest thing I've ever done with my money. So we'll start with Nate, our guest. Who do you have in this category?
All right. So again, I interpreted your explanation a little bit differently here. And I went with, Cantlay and Xander here just because of such a short odds, You're not winning much. And like you said when we started this show, if you are to hit that ticket, I mean, you're not even covering what you've put on the books this week. So there's that. And I like to hit the ones where I can take to Twitter or my other social medias and kind of gloat. Am I going to gloat about a plus or a 3-1 or a 4-1? No, it's expected. So that's where I went with the putter this week, and I don't know how you guys think about that.
Yeah, I mean, it is sort of a bet and regret because you're just like, it's not fun. I think is part of it.
Yeah, that's part of it for sure.
I do, and Nathaniel, you can jump in here if you want to. I do roll my eyes at some of the, I think, touts who they'll be like, I'm on fire. And then you'll expand the tweet and it'll be like, Rom, Scheffler, Rom. And it's like, okay, fine. But like, could you have like, I mean, maybe just one other guy, so sometimes, but it is nice to have a winner because if you don't win, then I don't really know what the point is.
It's hard this season when Rom or Scotty are winning every other week. So that's if you're hitting outrights, kind of looks like that.
Yeah, it kind of has to. It's just been nuts watching those two play
It's crazy.
every week. But okay, so Nate, you got a bet and regret?
Yeah. I have so many. I'm just looking at it, and it's just like all of them. I'm like, how did you do this? I think, I mean, the biggest bet and regret, I mean, it could have been a hybrid. This could be a long shot that makes me a lot of money, but I'm just going to go ahead and throw it in bet and regret because, like, I don't know how I talk myself into some of this. Like, why? Like, I have perfectly good money in my account. And then I find myself being like, you know what? Brent Grant and Kevin Roy really might have something here because they were so good on the Corn Ferry Tour last year. And then I'm like, you know what? At 150 to 1, let's go. Let's go. And then I go back and I get ready for the show and I maybe do a little bit more digging when I'm not just like blindly firing off bets Monday morning. And then I like look through it and I'm like, oh, okay, got to find a reason that we like Brent Grant here. And then I'm like, well, the results are okay. Tie for 8th at Punta Cana, whatever. Like he's played okay. And then I look at Kevin Roy and I'm like, man, it has not been a smooth transition to the PGA Tour at all. At all. It has been very bad. We've missed a lot of cuts. So, you know, could they make me rich? Yeah. At 150 to 1, if I could do it over, would I bet him? I don't know. I think that was sort of an impulse move, and probably not wise.
Yeah. Well, you start getting into those 100 to 1 in a team event like this.
Why do I do that?
Get a little squeamish. Yeah. But hey, you never know. I mean, if it hits, you'll
The
never
third and
stop
fourth best
talking
player
about
in the
it.
world are not losing to Kevin Grant, like Brent Grant and Kevin Roy. It's just not happening. Like they could play this tournament 50,000 times and they would win like 400 of them if it was a 10-team field.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true. Well,
you know,
I guess we'll see. My bet and regret we've talked about. I went with Hostler and Clark just because I love Clark so much. I'm not sure Hostler has what it takes. And the more I keep betting Clark, the more I keep regretting it because he's not really giving me, he's not making me rich here. But maybe I should just start betting him top 40 and then I might feel a little bit better about him. But we talked about them. I think that pairing actually can do fine. But Clark's the guy who I'm always kind of all over, and then it doesn't always seem to work out. So those are our bet and regrets. That's our putter. We're going to get to our hybrid in a minute. Those are long shots. Nate already talked about one of those, but before we do that, we got to tell you about Ignacio at Ignite 45. If you're a small business owner struggling to generate leads and revenue, then this message is for you. In today's economy, a winning digital strategy is a must. Without it, your business could fall behind and lose out. Many business owners struggle with outdated websites and no real presence on Google when people are searching for their services. But do not be discouraged. Ignite 45 can fix that. They design great websites that turn visitors into paying customers and create SEO strategies that rank your business on top of search results. Ignite 45 is also the first digital agency dedicated to helping your business reach millions on your social media platform of your choice. If you are ready to see the real results and work with a digital partner that shares your values, then give them a call today at 720-740-1776. That's 720-740-1776, or visit www.ignite45.com/Godzilla. That's www.ignite45.com/Godzilla. Use promo code Godzilla to save 100 on your digital needs today. We always want to thank Ignacio at Ignite 45 for partnering with us. Okay, long shots here. Tough field for long shots. Our guest Nate is down there grimacing. You got anybody in your hybrid category?
Yeah, I don't know how long we want to go with this. I have the combination of Joel Dahman and Denny McCarthy written down here. They're 46 to 1. Or if we want to go longer than that, we have the likes, the Harrison Endicott and Aaron Badley. They're at 180 to 1, I believe the number is.
That's what we're talking about.
They're way down there. They're the ones that, a $5 bet will make for a good chunk of change. There's not much to talk about these guys. There's not much these guys do well. They're actually competent when it comes to putting on Bermuda grass. They're both above average, at least in that category. And Badley is actually elite around the green. So, you know, if it comes down to, you know, getting up and down around the green and sinking a putt, this may be your team, but getting to that point is going to be a little sloppy from there. So, yeah, that's a pretty decent long shot, I believe.
Yeah.
Talk about Dom and that team, because that's not a bad play at 46-1.
Yeah, I like this team. You know, Dahmen has made the cuts at events such as, you know, the Phoenix Open, the Players. McCarthy actually went T25 a week ago. McCarthy's an elite scrambler. I think he's 7th on tour in that category. He's also above average in putting on Bermuda. They're both quality around the green, hitting out of the sand, and you know, Joel there, he's a pretty good approach player as well. So I think they check a lot of boxes. They do a lot of good things well. You know, where one guy is weakened, the other one may be a little bit better. You know, McCarthy isn't the best when it comes to par fives, but Dahmen's above average there. So at 46-1, there are definitely worse ways to spend your money, as you know, I just previously stated.
Absolutely.
I think that's a really good play, and I didn't really pick up on that one, but I like it more and more now that I think about it. I also kind of like, I think Joel Dahmen's personality kind of fits a team
There's that.
play. Yeah, this is just something. It's not an elevated event, not high pressure. He's playing with a buddy, and so there's a certain kind of level of just the approach to the game where I think the guys like Tom Kim, like we talked about, guys who are having like a ton of fun on the course. Sahith, same thing. I think play well in a tournament like this because it's so weird and it relies on a little bit of chemistry with your partner, and it just relies on you kind of staying loose because you can't play at the same pace that you're used to playing at. You can't go through your same shot routine because you're not taking every shot, especially on some of those alternate days. So someone like Dahmen, I think, who has really the right kind of personality for something like this could be a really interesting play. So I really like that. I didn't have that written down. I didn't look at it, but the more I think about it, the more I like it. So thanks for pointing that one out. That could be a real fun one to watch. And you know, same thing. Like I want to bet on guys who are fun to watch. So I want to be able to watch those guys. Nate, hybrid.
Yeah.
What do you have?
I have I have some pretty deep long shots, but they're not as much fun to talk about. But what I do like is Will Gordon and Davis Thompson at 55-1. That one's sort of one that I'm like, that actually feels like I don't have bet regret about that one because they're both really long off the tee, excellent drivers, really good long iron players. They're both, you know, quite young. So this is Will Gordon's especially a guy that I've sort of found myself drawn to, talking myself into as sort of a long shot this season. And he's had some pretty good results to start the season, and then hasn't played as well sort of since the calendar turned to 2023, aside from the Amex where he was second. But, you know, team event, these guys sort of live in the same area. They're both from St. Simon's Island. So I can think of worse ways to spend my money at 55-1 than these two, Davis Thompson and Will Gordon. So that's sort of what I like. They check a lot of the boxes, you know, good par five players. So yeah, that's sort of what I settled on, I guess, for my long shot that's going to make me rich.
You've been talking about Will Gordon pretty much all year.
Yeah.
And a lot
That's
in
pretty much one of
DFS,
my guys.
bottom price range.
Yeah,
Right.
I bet he is. He's he's another one who probably just needs to put it all together at some point. I don't know if we'll see an outright, but we'll start to see some better just performance from him. But he has been playing pretty well. So Nate's kind of been all over that. I've got one hybrid and I have no notes on him. Or on this team. It's just Watney and Hoffman at 180-1. And okay, so they're a long shot. So there's that. Nate might remember like a while ago, I touted Hoffman hard. I don't know why. It was some course. I can't remember the tournament, but he like finished second and he finished fourth. He's had some success in one of these courses early in the year. And I don't even know if he made the cut. He may have, but I bet him on that tournament to be leading by Thursday, because that used to be his thing, that he'd find himself in the lead on Thursday back kind of when he was in his prime. not so much anymore.
I feel like that was the
But,
Texas Open. I feel like you got like really hyped for him then, maybe.
Was it? It could have been. Yeah, I'd have to go back and see. That may have been. But I've been all over Hoffman before. I'm just about 8 years too late on it. Watney and Hoffman, 180 to 1, no notes, just you're looking for a long shot. I think the only reason I wrote it down is they played together before. I think they're like the second longest team on this in this format. I'm pretty sure I read that. I think that's the only reason I wrote them down. So maybe team chemistry, but I'm not sure that that's worth a ton of money. We'll see. So we got a couple of minutes here, and I kind of want to ask you guys this because we talked about Cantlay a little bit. Cantlay and Schauffele, clear favorites. So the Masters, we all know Cantlay's slow play kind of drama. And then it crept up a little bit last week when he almost won. Nate and I both kind of picked him in our driver range just because we thought, with all the drama, like that's how golf goes. Like now he'll win a tournament. So Nate, our guest here, any thoughts on the slow play? I mean, I've read, different things. Some people, some analysts just don't care. That others, say that it can really mess up some others' game. Any thoughts on that to close us out?
I mean, I'm not too invested into it. It happens. It's a slow pace no matter how you think of it. Being on the tour, got 140 guys playing 18 holes a day before the cut. So it happens. Of course, Rahm stated about it, his concerns. And if that's the case, there's going to be a problem about it, if you're affecting someone else's game because of what you're doing in that nature. So like I said, I mean, no skin off my back, obviously. So I'm not going to go on Twitter and start, freaking out about it and tweeting this or that. It is what it is. But I guess it's more of a respect thing for the rest of your competitors and field that, if they have a problem with it, you should try to figure something out to really boost it.
Yeah, Nate.
I mean, he just looks like a guy with a lot on his mind. And he's not, because it's not even like he's taking a long time sort of getting to the ball. And it's not like he's taking a lot of time sort of like getting ready to hit the shot. It's just like standing over it takes forever. He's just standing over it for like 90 seconds or like a minute, like over a minute a lot of times. And it's like at that point, it's like, this feels like, yeah, it's slow, but it also doesn't feel like he's going to do that forever. Like I remember Sergio years ago had this regrip thing where he was trying to fix his grip and he just like couldn't pull the trigger, or like Kevin Na when he had like the driver hitch and he just like couldn't pull the trigger with the driver. This just feels kind of like almost like that. Like he just like, eventually he'll like mentally reset and he'll get faster. But in the meantime, it's just going to be torture to play with him.
Maybe it's one of those things where his mother-in-law moved in with him and he just doesn't want to go home.
You guys got somewhere better to be? Yeah.
For real. I mean, I've certainly prolonged my outing every once in a while because I'm not exactly excited for what's coming next once I get off the course.
We all have.
So I don't know. I mean, if they're in the lead, it's going to be another storyline. And I just feel like every year we get up in our feelings about someone who's playing slow. It just seems like every year it's somebody. And
JP Holmes before this, there's always somebody that they're like, this guy's so slow.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't know. It's just he's not playing that slow. Like you said, I think players are getting frustrated because he's standing over the ball forever. So they're like, geez, just like hit it. But it's not so egregious, and pretty much all these guys are playing at a fairly slow pace. So I don't know. Certainly something to be watching for, especially since those two are Cantlay and Schauffele, both the favorites, but also will be in contention. I mean, I don't think any of us believe that they're not going to be around for the weekend. So it should be a storyline, but I kind of am hoping it'll go away at some point because I like Cantlay. He's fun to watch.
Well, they'll play a little bit faster in the alternate shot because Cantlay only hit half of them.
There you go.
That's right. Yeah. Unless he like starts standing over Schauffele's ball and being like,
walks over.
This is what I think you should do.
Yeah.
let me get a good look here. Then yeah.
Let's talk about this a little more. Yeah.
So All right. So I want to thank both Nate Perry and Nate Brown for joining us today on Clubhouse Picks, talking about the Zurich Classic for in New Orleans at TPC Louisiana. Once again, you can find Nate on Twitter at WKF Nate. That's WKF Nate. And don't miss his weekly golf fantasy podcast, Out of the Rough, which comes out every Wednesday. You won't want to miss it. And you can go to weknowfantasy.com to read his previews, which are, Nate, if I do say so myself, they're really good. I love watching them. It's one of the reasons I actually come, or reading them. One of the reasons I actually come on the show. They're so thorough. So if you haven't checked those out, please go there. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks everyone for listening this week's episode of Clubhouse Picks. It's brought to you by Godzilla Wins, as always. You can download and listen to Clubhouse Picks on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Please be sure to download, rate, and review. If you like the show, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Drop a comment with your picks for the Zurich. We'll see you next week, Nate. I have no idea. Oh, I do know. The Mexico
It's the
Open
Mexico
is
Open.
next week.
Yeah, we
That's
got
right.
it.
Yeah. We usually have no idea what the next tournament is. And so I'm always like, Nate, what's the next tournament? He's like, I have no idea. But I did know that it was the Mexico Open. So Nate, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck this week.